Lyons is a very special community made up of about 2,000 people located at the confluence of the North and South St. Vrain Creeks. Lyons is a pretty quirky little community made up of young families, professionals, artists, musicians.
We're going to get our band up here to play with us to get it kicked off. This one's a song that I like to...
A very close-knit community. Most people are first-name basis. You know most people on the street when you walk by them. Planet Bluegrass draws probably the most visitors, throughout the summer. They host 3 major bluegrass festivals, one each month, July, August, and September.
So I'm an example of someone who moved to Lyons after having experienced Planet Bluegrass festivals, and that was one of the things that brought myself and my family to Lyons. And I know that the same thing has been true for a lot of people, whether they are musicians or just people that kind of discovered Lyons and the creative and artistic culture of Lyons through Planet Bluegrass events. But so it's certainly been a magnet to create this cool town of Lyons. But it's been Planet Bluegrass is really an economic engine for the town of Lyons. That the biggest weekends of the year for most of the businesses in town are the Planet Bluegrass festivals. And and I think it's just Planet Bluegrass has really, to a large degree, put Lyons on the national and international map.
At the time that we were allowed to go back to the house, we had not only a river in back of our house, but a river in front of our house. And so we were kind of on an island in the middle of the river. A great big island, but it was an island because the river was on both sides. And you can see we had beautiful trees and grass all around the home. You can also see our trees in the fall and in full color. We had planted several trees, autumn blaze maple. It wasn't just that the house was pretty well destroyed inside, it was that our yard that we had so carefully maintained, and it was like a park down on the river, it now looked like a alluvial basin, like a debris field. We had huge boulders and rocks everywhere. We had upended trees. A whole row of spruce trees by the river was completely gone down the river. We had enormous trees that were laying strewn all over our property, not just from our property, but from miles upstream. We were in an area where it just deposited huge boulders and rocks, and there were all kinds of things on our property, all kinds of debris, people's barbecues, and all kinds of things. Our 2 homes, when the floodwaters were up completely high around both homes, and then after the waters receded, I have pictures of the debris field that was left and the rocks.
We live in Lyons on the south part of town, and my wife and I were sitting on the couch watching something on Netflix, and it was pouring hard, so I was watching the gutters of our house, but I certainly never thought that things would amount to this.
When you first could see the impact of the water and the height of the water and the breadth of the water, there's an overwhelming feeling and a sinking feeling of really not knowing what to expect when the water receded. Found out that our river, when it overflows, will divide us into 6 islands. Planet Bluegrass, their property being just annihilated.
You can assume, you can, in your mind's eye, you can think, well, under that water, it's probably just green and it's probably just fine. That was not the case, but like, so my first time seeing the property with water flowing across it, but the water had definitely started to recede at that point, was, okay, I think we can make it through it. Now, the second time I came to the property, which was like a week later, and just to see the dirt and debris and where the rivers had settled, actually was a lot more difficult to see.
And the parks being unusable. We were really at a scramble to figure out where can people camp, where can we put all the RVs, where can we park people. Mr. Ferguson, who owns the property, made a commitment to have it ready by July. His response has been that people are so supportive. They sold out literally within an hour. I think it was like 16 minutes. Sold out for the first festival, and people were very, very resilient.
It's going to be hard for folks to imagine what it was like for the last 8-9 months around here, because it really the area was so changed from our festival site into like a quarry gravel pit, and just kind of dealing with the the dirt and the dust and the crazy conditions and the noise and the machine.
I guess the Wildflower Pavilion, it's early July and we're still finishing. The electricity lines, it's early July and we're still finishing.
And our parking area has also changed a little bit. We have less parking. The the walkway for folks that want to walk from the campground into Planet Bluegrass is completely different. There's really not a park anymore, so they'll have to walk on the road.
For years, of course, were shocked. Those who were new were very respectful that things weren't as neat and orderly as they normally are, but help give our definition of our community. They are the music schools and the songwriting schools, and they're a big draw to our community. So for him to renew that commitment was really important to all of us.
So there's a part of me that's kind of excited that we're not completely finished with the project, because people are going to get a sense of some of these areas, really what it was like and what we were dealing with here in town and Planet Bluegrass. And a flood is not something you can recover from in a year, but it's still at the same time, it's going to be a wonderful reunion, and I think we can all kind of gather together and just kind of get back in this creative space here and kind of talk about it and process it, and look forward to the changes in the future.